words here, and I am showing you 2 dots. These are the best dots. Look at the dots. No, I can move the dots. This is something I'm working on. I wanted to go ahead and kind of document it as I went along, making, I'm probably not just this game, but like any game I make, I'm going to record stuff about it. This isn't just like some kind of, I don't even think of myself as an indie developer even. I think of myself more as a hobbyist at most, especially at this point. I'd kind of like to get to the point of maybe being something kind of like a developer. That'd be kind of cool. But at this point, that would be pretentious of me. The most I could say, yeah, I'm kind of a hobbyist. I'm working on, there's a lot of different ideas I've got that I'm working on. This is one of them. As you can see, it's not much yet. So I just wanted to kind of talk about what I've done so far. Maybe talk about the code. Maybe even make like little screenshots of the code and put it up. I have a lot. I talked about it in the Mondays, I think it was, as of this airings, Bastion, how I had trouble recording GameMaker. For some reason, it just doesn't work. It doesn't matter. It's kind of boring to watch me code. I probably would have cut most of that out anyway. So it's pretty much the same thing to just throw up like some screenshots or something if I need to, where I'm like, here's the code, here's what I was doing. I could also just, maybe, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do yet. I'm going to kind of feel my way through this, because I don't even know how long these videos are going to be. They're going to go out on Wednesdays. Yeah, I really don't know. I'm just going to, I might even just edit together like a bunch of different videos where it's like, here's what I've done so far. I don't even know if I'll be able to like say, that's the end, because like, I don't know when it's going to end necessarily either. Hopefully after I've done 1 or 2 of these, I'll know what I'm doing with them, how quickly I can make them, when I want them to go out, that sort of thing. We'll get through this, guys. Don't worry. But this game, I don't want to talk too much about details on like what I'm going to do. I want to talk about what I've done more, because if I talk about what I'm going to do, then either I don't do it, and that's kind of weirdly disappointing that I said, I'm going to do this cool thing, I'm going to do exactly like this, and I'm going to do it differently or badly, or don't do it at all. So that's kind of dumb. I'm not going to do that. But I might talk about the grander scheme of things, what it is I'm thinking of when I do this. Because obviously I have some kind of plan. It's not like I'm just going to be, winging it the whole way through. This is the idea for this is to make it's going to be an RPG, a turn-based RPG. That's why there's kind of this invisible grid. When I press up, it moves the up one one unit on this grid that you can't actually see. And I can hold the button and it moves me around like that. But and the idea is so you move a certain amount of spaces, turn one in, blah blah blah, like that, like into that sort of thing. It's actually I'm thinking of this sort of making a sort of a Fallout kind of like kind of a Fallout clone, really. Not like with the same like setting at all, but like the similar kind of gameplay, and including the fact that I'll probably base like some of it on GURPS. I don't know what exactly. I don't know how exactly I'm going to go about that. I'm going to kind of take some notes. Basically, I'm going to do the boring parts off camera. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to code some of this stuff. I'm going to get all that done, and then I'm going to record that as well. And I might edit that video into this one, depending on how much content I can make when. This might be one video where I'm like, okay, here's this and that and that. I might also just like kind of edit it all together and then maybe record myself again and say, hey, and that's the end or something. I don't know yet. Like I said, I'm kind of winging it on that. On the video making front, I'm definitely winging it entirely. I have no idea. Just so you know, completely don't know what I'm doing. That's what it's like to be new to something, isn't it? I mean, that's not something I can look up either, is it? As opposed to stuff about code, which I totally can, and well, where I need to, and I'll be actually making this. I'll try to make this good. It's gonna be good. It's going to be a game. I don't know if it's going to be good, actually. I can't say that. But I can say it's going to be something that I'm going to make. And there's other things I'm going to make, too, as I go along. I've got a bunch of different ideas that I'm kind of rattling around with and I'm going to try to work on. But this is numero uno. Not much code to this yet. The characters are just sort of... Those are actually just being drawn by GameMaker, like on the fly. Those aren't sprites, as you do, because... it's kind of simpler for me, really, to just go ahead and say, write a line of code to draw a circle, as opposed to sit down and like open up their stupid little sprite editor and make a little sprite and then put it in to fix it up and blah blah blah. It's kind of stupid. And I'm not really much at drawing at all. I can't really draw very well, and I'm not going to try too much. Ooh, look, I can hide. Sorry. I'm going to, yeah, so there's not going to be like, it's going to be all the programmer's graphics, as you call them, quote unquote, like this. But that's okay. Hopefully the ideas can shine through. But yeah, so far basically you press a button. It actually has a little timer where it, like, counts out how much it's moved the object and moves it only as much as it should for that grid. And that's really all there is to that code. Maybe there's a screenshot of it on the screen right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm not good enough at editing for that to happen. But who knows? I'm probably gonna do it in like Movie Maker or something, because I already spent $30 on Fraps. Jeez, what do you think I am, made of money? We'll see. I kind of am, but I might actually go ahead and get something better to record with, to edit with. I mean, if I'm gonna actually be editing the videos, we'll see. But for now, maybe just give Movie Maker maybe, and put some things together, get some things done, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end this clip or video, and then I'll go code some stuff, work on it, and come back and see where we are from there. Words here again. I don't know if that's really the start of a video, so I don't know if that's how I want to start that, but learning. Not much has changed here, actually. Made it a little faster to move because that was kind of annoying. But actually, what I have done is, and hopefully at some point here you'll see code appearing, like, oh my god, look at this code. At which point it might make more sense what I'm about to talk about. I just wanted to have something to record while I did this, even if it's not much yet. Because I figured I might as well have some video. Yeah, what I've done now is I've actually I had this already, but I haven't finished it yet. I'm putting in code to make it so that the game actually has a grid that it uses. It's a data structure in GameMaker that keeps track of lists. Each list is actually just what's on that grid, like what's in that at that point. So, like for instance, maybe not only is there it says right now actually that there's an enemy at that point up here in the top left, and then it actually could then keep track of, say, maybe he has like a weapon and he drops it, or he's standing on the same place as somebody else or some other thing. Those other things could also be there, or maybe there's it could also keep track of like and then like if you try to move through a space that has an object that is not something you can move through, the code will basically like look at what you were about to step in and say and just basically run through it all until it finds something, until it either runs out of things that are there or finds something that you can't move through and say, hey, wait a second, you can't move there, and stops you. Or maybe it sees something like that you can attack, and if you try to move into something you can attack, instead of moving you attack it. I don't know. I'm just making that stuff up. But that's the start of that. I don't know how often I'm going to cut back into recording. We'll see, I guess. But I'm going to kind of pare it down, maybe edit these together and edit them out, that sort of thing. Cut out what I don't need until I got a good episode size, maybe. I don't know. But maybe cut out this. I'll go ahead and stop this though, and we'll see what else I can do here. I've just got what I want to do is, and I know I didn't say I wouldn't talk about details too much until I've done them. So maybe I'll edit this out. I don't know. Actually, you know what? There's no point to talking about that. I haven't done it yet. God damn it! I gotta. I'll get back to you once I've gotten a couple more things here though, and I'll explain what those other things are that I did. It might not be much changed visually, but you'll see. I'll explain it. Just a little update. I'm kind of playing around with the basics, of course. What I've done so far, I believe I mentioned in another video that I have a grid set up where it's actually like it's a data structure that keeps track of lists. Each list then keeps track of all the objects that are in that area. So this is actually kind of a test of that. Your player object moves its location, basically takes itself out of the list and puts itself into the new location. So like right now I'm in the list at that point. Like the point that the player is at, there's a list there and he's in that list with that number that represents that object. When I move, it removes itself from that point and puts itself into the list where it's going. The words where it says here, that actually indicates that's just actually the game object is going through each point and testing whether or not the player object is listed there. And if it is, it says here. So as you can see, it works. When I move, it removes it from the one location and puts it in the other. And it works, as you can see, it also knows where the enemy object is, and it colors that blue. If I want player here, see, it puts them. They can both be listed at that same location without any problems. And I can remove him and put him in, just like that. So that way, I could actually have other kinds of objects listed. The game could know what's there, and for whatever event that would trigger, stepping on that or performing some sort of action on it would then occur based on that object. So if I wanted to have, if I had an item at a location, I can have my character pick it up, because the game would have a list of objects that are there. It would probably just tell me what objects there are and give them to me. And then from there, I can, well, that's about it, really, about as far as that goes. Yeah. But I'll work on that. Basically, that's all I really need to do for that. I'm thinking I'm going to next kind of, again, like I said, I don't want to talk about specific details where it's just sort of like, where it's abstract, and then, you know, end up failing to do that. What I can talk about, though, is the bigger picture, and one bigger picture thing, one thing that you always have to have is AI. I'm going to probably go ahead and the next thing I'm going to do is get that enemy object up there to move across the room with some sort of obstacle in the middle and have it go around it. Really simple thing. It's kind of complex. I've done some stuff with that sort of thing a little bit, but I'm not really too confident on it, so I'll have to, I don't know, we'll see if that ends up, if this ends up being the end of this, like, this week's video, or, you know, however I do that, or if that ends up in the next video, just because it takes me, you know, if it ends up taking me like a couple of days to do. But I might also make some more videos about other games I'm working on, like I've said repeatedly, probably in this video, if I'm doing that way. But I'll go ahead and I'll work on that. I'll work on some other things, maybe make some other videos about that as well, but we'll see. So thanks for watching, and that's going to end this clip. Boom. Let's see, that kind of another small update pretty much. There's now a wall here, and not only that, but I went ahead and made it so that you can't move through solid objects anymore. And same goes for the enemy object. It's a solid object now. I could put in another object, I guess, to illustrate that it's possible to still move through non-solid objects, which could also be, you know, stacked on top of each other in that case. But yeah, the game creates those three wall objects, just like it creates these two character objects, and then when I try to move through it, it just checks that space. It loops through all the objects in that space. If it finds something that's marked as solid, then it says, you can't move that way. In theory, there would never be more than one object anywhere there is one solid object, technically. But that's not entirely the case. Like, for instance, you know, characters are going to be able to walk on top of non-solid objects, but they are solid objects. So yeah, that's why that would have to be like that. It would have to loop through the whole thing, because there might be, in fact, you know, like a character standing on top of like a character moves on top of a bunch of non-solid objects. So the first objects in the list would be non-solid, and it would say, oh, well, it's not a solid space if it just looked at the first one, obviously. So it has to go through the whole thing, find, oh, hey, wait, no, this very last thing here is actually a solid object. I can't move through there. This is just preparation, and partly just, you know, to do it because it was something simple to do. But I need to have, you know, a wall here, solid object that the enemy cannot move through. And then I'm going to have, eventually, what I'm going to do next is make it so I'm going to press a button, and the character object, I don't know if you can, I think I said not show my mouse. Whatever. The character object, though, up there, will do this. He will start from over here, and he'll move down and over and down and over and down and over and try to get to the player's location the shortest possible way. I might make the wall a little bigger, so that that's a little bit more of a obstacle. But he should find the quickest way to get there, and then I'll kind of make the whole area a little more complicated. If I can get him to do that basic thing, of moving from there to there without and avoid the wall at all, I'll make very more complicated. Try to use try to see if I can get my my pathfinding to work well enough to get all the way over there, even through like a practical maze. So if I can get that far, then I can move on from there. Because AI is kind of going to be an important thing for something where the whole game's probably going to be single player. You're playing against enemies that you encounter. So you'll encounter an enemy. You want that enemy to then properly pathfind to you and do all that stuff. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless. And then you've got to get it to where they can also perform actions eventually. But that's quite far off, really, in a lot of ways at this point. What I'll probably do before then is get it to where I can just do the basic like turn-based stuff. I want to get it to where my character has a speed, and if I use up all of the moves that speed stat indicates that I have, then it ends my turn, and the enemy then would perhaps, just to start with, move towards the player until its turn ends, at which point I can move, etc. And then that's about it. But yeah, so that's all I've really changed at this point, though, is the wall. So that's what's coming up next. Okay, I'm back with a big change. Look, you can move diagonally. That's a pretty big change that I did. And also, I wanted to, before I ran out of time today, I wanted to go ahead and get a video of something very special. Ah! So anyway, pathfinding works. I'm kind of happy about that. Pathfinding works. It works really well. So far, anyway. I haven't tried it with a more... I wanted the... I put a more complex structure in the middle there so I could test it out a little more. And I wanted to go ahead and maybe even make that almost like a maze. Right now you can actually cut corners and soak in the AI, but that might kind of depend on what it is you're moving through. I don't know yet, obviously. So it's something I'm just gonna leave that in for now. You can't move through the object horizontally, but you can through it diagonally. But whatever. Yeah, but that works. I wanted to get an even... I hadn't gotten... It won't take too much code to get it to where it actually moves from that location, from the location it's at, to the end of the path. All I have to do is work backwards through the path and get it from, basically it'll do all this. I'm going to try to go straight through the logic on the code. And try to just do that to get a better idea to give you a better idea of how this actually works. So I press space to tell the enemy to do this kind of pathfinding test here. Press space and it goes through. It creates a little variable for loops. That's neither here nor there. It does this thing. It says xmap. It creates a map. A map is a key-value pair. So it actually, xmap is the particular map for the x position of a point on the grid. Ymap, obviously, would be the y position of a point on the grid. And gmap is a map of g's. Obviously, g is actually is a measure of how long it's taken to get to a position on the grid, along basically how many moves you had to take to get there. H is the heuristic, is why you call it H. Heuristic. It's a hard word to say, and it also means basically a guess. It's how it determines the game. I discovered you can see on my mouse. It determines basically the heuristic takes the distance between it doesn't take into account diagonals, by the way. It only takes the horizontal and vertical distance between the origin and the target, the destination, and then it actually multiplies that by 10 because that's how many points we're using. It costs 10 points to move horizontally or vertically. It takes 14 to move diagonally is what we decided because of math. Basically, it's got to do with like the square root of stuff. Don't worry about it. Well, maybe do. I don't know. You can. Again, this is something you might want to look up later as well if you're actually interested, because I'm probably not going to be as good at explaining it. I'm basically just trying to go through my own code at this point. But that's the heuristic, though. The heuristic is a guess. And then you have P map here in my code. P map, that's the parent. Each point on the grid is going to be have a parent, and that's going to be the point of the grid that it came from, basically the point of the grid that spawned it, essentially. And then you have your O. That is that is a Boolean that tells you whether or not that is open or closed. Open means that it's still up for consideration. Closed means that it's already been looked at. And then you have I. I is actually just it's a map for the unique identifier for each point on the grid. I can actually take in the X and Y position as kind of the key, and then put that, and from that get a unique identifier from that one. And the unique identifier, that's just an ID for each point of the grid that's been looked at, and then that actually gives us, that's actually how we look into, that's the key for those other maps, actually. Then you have your the closed list. This is a list of all of the closed positions on the map, basically. And then you have your open list. That's the positions that are open. That's the one we actually care about. The closed list, I ended up basically, I just need to go back and comment that out. It's not actually usable. It's pointless, basically, because you never go back and check anything that's closed, ever. All you need to know is what's open still. And then I actually made a T list. That's supposed to be a temporary list, which I never used either. N is the current ID. So like N starts at 0. That's the unique identifier for the origin point is 0. It's up here. And then we set our target is the player's position. And then we go through and we actually put the origin, the enemy's position, into the map. Into the maps, actually. So we have his X position, his Y position, and then the G, it costs nothing to not move, so 0. The heuristic is just, actually, I need to change this. Heuristic's not correct right now. I need to fix that. But normally I would actually do this, this distance, basically, and multiply it by 10 because of my point cost. But right now it's not actually doing that. It's not affecting it too much. Just on this basic test. If I had more complex structures and that sort of thing, it would probably be more. But we're not worrying about that right now. Let's see, and then P map, it sets its parent to -1, just so that I know that that's the origin that doesn't have a parent, so its origin is nothing, it's -1. It's not open, we have to set it closed, because it's already basically been checked and we don't care about that. Ever again. We don't care about that origin point. We just have to have it on the map. And then we add it to our priority list, which I had already created up here. And a priority list kind of works like, again, it has a key and a value. The key, though, is a priority. And in this case, the priority is you add the heuristic and it's G. I still don't know what that stands for. Actually, I don't know what's called G. But anyway, G is the number of how much we spent to move. So we add 0 plus our heuristic, which is this distance, and then that's the priority for that position, and that'll be more important later on when we do other points, when we do the other points on the grid, basically. But once we've done that, we just set our priority, not our priority. We set our parent. The parent is now that origin point 0. And we do this find path code. So we have to go find that find path code. And now find path actually goes through and it starts, it sets the a parent X and a parent Y. Basically, it gets the position of the parent and finds that, sets it. And then it's going to loop through and it's going to do this. It's basically, first off, it's going to check, like let's use my, I don't know if depending on how I do this, it's going to go through and check each point around the position of the parent. And what it's going to do is it's going to first say, okay, well, first off, is that position inside of our room? And because if it's not, we don't care at all about it. Then second off, it's going to check, first off, actually, before it does anything else, it actually goes ahead and sets an XY as just, it gets the identifier, the kind of an ID based on its X and Y position by taking its X position times 1,000 and adding its Y, so you get a number that's like, say, if it's at position 2020, it would be at 20, 0, 20, like that. It would get that number. That's a number I can use to identify. That's what I use on, we use that on the IMAP. So we can basically convert between our unique identifier number, our N, and and that identification, like based on the actual X and Y position. So I can go set basically that's what I can go from a Y position, like an X and Y position, and use that to actually get my unique identifier, so that I can get it from the grid rather than having to already have it. But then from there, it actually checks whether or not that position has already been added to the IMAP map. If it's not in there, then it's not been created. That position has never been looked at all. So it needs to add it in. It'll first, before it goes ahead and tries though, it'll first check whether or not that position is viable one more way, which is that a solid space? Basically, if it's a wall, then it's solid. So don't do that. Don't worry about it. You don't need to move there because you can't. And then if the, so it'll then do, first off, it increments n. N is our unique identifier, so we're getting a new unique identifier for this new position. And then it adds it to the map. We give it a parent of the previous parent, the current parent actually. So what we sent our origin was 0. That was the unique identifier. We set p to 0. So now this new position, let's say it might be this one right here, it has a unique identifier of 1, and we're using that key to set the value for the p map as 0, meaning that's the parent. From there, it then sets its X position, its Y position, its G, which is going to be the basically you have 0 is how much it took to move from that position, and then 10 in this case, because it takes 10 points to move down there. And then it will also add the heuristic, which is the distance between those 2 points, that point and the target. And then it will give the OMAP. It sets it to true because it's open. That one's open right now. We haven't basically have to check it a second time before we close it. And I'll get to that exactly why we close things, close a position. But right now it's open. We just added it, so it's open. And then it also does the ID based on the X and Y position, and it adds it to this priority list based on adding together the G, how much points you've spent to get that far, and the H, how long it's going to probably take to get from where you are to where you're going. Then from there, it actually that's it. It's going to be doing a loop again from there, but it's added that in, and it's going to loop through and actually come back up and do these other points as well, do the same thing. Now, the other thing is, if that position is already checked, it has to do something this other little thing. It has to check whether or not that position is actually basically how do I best describe this? Like there might not be an example within this particular setup, but it has to check whether or not the moving from this position to a position that's already been checked, basically if it is to check if moving from a position that's already been checked to the current parent is faster than moving from the parent that other position has to that position. From there, it goes through all that, does that a whole bunch, basically, and then it does it for all those positions, and then it comes back down here, and it sets the new parent to the smallest f, which is the priority on our priority queue. And it removes that from the open list and sets that to no longer open. It sets that to closed. And what that does is, basically, it sets the parent as the thing with the lowest f. The lowest f is potentially the best place to move to. And then it wraps back around and does all the checks for that parent, and then finds a new parent based on what the new lowest F on the open list is. And it's obvious it's going to, and as you can tell, it's going to ignore the one we just checked because it's set to closed. If it's set to closed, we ignore it. It does this until it sets to closed the position that is the target. If it just sets to closed the target, then that means it's done. It's reached its location, and it just needs to create a path, which is done pretty quickly. I just loop through basically I loop through and I go backwards through the path. So I say, okay, well, here's this position. We know this is our parent. This is the last thing we checked. We just closed that, and it's definitely the end of the position. Then we go back. We say, okay, well, what's your parent? 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 And because of how we did this, we checked those repeatedly. We looked through and made sure this was the fastest possible path. So because of how we did that, the parent of each parent, you know, this guy's parent has this parent, 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 has this parent. It goes along. It comes all the way back to the location that we started from, creating a path, a nice little path that you can move along. And that should be all you need to know about that as far as that. That's all the code that I just wrote basically for that. I'm not going to go through like making it move diagonally or anything. Not that interesting really, but that's the most interesting thing right now. All I have to do now is I might make another video if I get it to where it's actually moving rather than just sort of standing there, and maybe make it more of a maze, maybe make it more interesting, see how well this really stacks up. Might change some of the code as well. But yeah, I guess that might be the end. We'll see. I'll make another video if it is. We'll have a sign-off. And yeah, I'll stop this video now. I haven't changed anything. I'm just cutting in, kind of maybe cutting myself off there, I don't know. Basically just to say, hey, that's it. I guess that's all. That's the end of that video. It ended up like 30 minutes long with this. It's going to be over 30 minutes long, which is kind of crazy. I might try to, maybe I'll be better about editing later. Maybe on the next one it'll be a little less crap. But I haven't changed anything here. I'm just cutting back in to say thanks for watching. See you guys next time. And yeah, just next week hopefully I'll be able to put up another video, and maybe it'll be shorter. I don't know, but yeah, if you made it through the whole dang thing, me droning on about the code and all that, even then that's incredible. I'm surprised, but yeah, and if you somehow actually kind of liked that, then you might want to go ahead and like this and subscribe to me, in fact, and then we might see more, and we'll see where I can take this game. But yeah, see ya.